Good evening and a very warm welcome to St. Talks for Parents. For those joining us for the first time, St. Talks for Parents is a free webinar series. Each session brings together expert educators, trainers, and specialists to have honest, practical conversation with parents. Because we believe that when parents are informed and empowered, children thrive. And as many of you may already know, Senta has recently launched our dedicated online tutoring initiative designed to bring high quality, teacher accredited learning support directly to your children at home. The parent webinar is part of that larger commitment to walk alongside you, not just in the classroom, but in every corner of your child's learning journey. Before we begin today's session, a few quick notes. To keep this session truly interactive, we would love for you to keep the live chat active. Drop your quick questions, reactions, and comments there anytime. We have a dedicated Q&A at the end, so do keep those questions coming. We also have poll questions throughout the session. Please do engage with those as diligently. Your responses help us make the conversation richer for everyone. Before we dive in, I would love to see something in the chat. On a scale of 1 to 10, how much of a struggle is study time at your house right now? 1 being peaceful and 10 being a daily battle. Please respond in the chat box so that we will know how is the struggle of study time at your house right now. Moving on to our session. Across India, we are seeing a generation of teenagers who are working harder than ever. Longer hours, more tuitions, more pressure. And yet, many of them are still struggling. Not because they aren't trying, but because no one has ever taught them how to study effectively, how to actually retain what they read, how to manage their time and their stress. Today, we are going to change that conversation. In today's session, we are going to talk about teen study habits that actually work. Now, it is my genuine pleasure to introduce our facilitator for this evening, Ms. Shivani Gupta. Ms. Shivani Gupta is a communications and language expert, teacher trainer, and leadership trainer with close to 24 years of experience as an educator and school administrator in some of Delhi's most respected private schools. What makes Ms. Gupta's perspective especially compelling is the breadth of her journey. She began as a chemistry teacher before following her deep passion for language and moving into English teaching in 2011. She then on went to study creative writing because for her, education has never been just about content. It has always been about connection and communication. She's an English subject expert who designs question papers for all India level examinations. She's a CBSE resource person. She is an on-panel trainer with the Indian Principals Network, conducting workshops for educators and school principals nationwide. She has trained teachers and students at institutions including DIET, Delhi Technological University, Miranda House College, and Mayur School, Jodhpur. And beyond all of this, Ms. Gupta is an author and a poet. Her writing reflects a rare and deep understanding of the Indian education system seen from the inside. She has sat in the classroom, she has run schools, she has trained the teachers who teach your children. And tonight, she is here to share what she knows with you. Ms. Gupta, we are truly delighted to have you with us. We are ready to learn how to turn that hard work into smart work. The floor is yours, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Akhila, and I welcome all those who are joining the session. It's my honor to be addressing you, and I'm sure what I'm going to talk is only an iteration of most of the things which you already know. So, diving right into the session, teen study habits that actually work, moving beyond long study hours towards smarter learning. So, my question to parents is, how long did you learn, read, or devote to study? And do you really think it's going to be the same with your kids? Because if you think this way, you are mistaken. Times have changed, so do the teen study patterns have changed. At our time, we did not have the support of internet. And today, no teen sits on the study desk without a smartphone or a laptop, right? So let's see how things have changed and what are the key takeaways from today's session. First of all, if we are talking about teen study habits, let's pause and try to make an effort to understand our teens. Most of us claim to understand our kids and our teens, but trust me, there are so many things we fail to see. I would also touch upon some educational myths or edu myths that plague our system and color our thought process. Since they are myths, they need to be dispelled. I would make an effort to just touch upon how thinking works. I wouldn't be going much into detail, the scientific detail, but I would talk about it from educational perspective. I would also decode learning through Edgar Dale's cone of learning. And then I will dive into some actionables for practicing by your teens and yourself. So let's just get into what the teen brain is thinking, right? Now, trust me, dear parents and dear teens who are attending this session, the teen brain is still under construction. It is just not ready, no matter how big you would want to consider yourself to be. Now, since I cannot go about addressing the parents and teens altogether, what I'm assuming is I'm addressing teens who are attending the session. Right. So, yes, dear teenagers, your brain is still under construction and your thoughts are not final. So, thereby, your emotions arrive before logic. Identity is central psychological task for you at this time. That is, you are shaping up your identity. So it takes a lot of your thought process and it's very central to your being. And it matters to you what others think about you. Peer influence is stronger than adult influence. All of us know, all of us adults and all of us parents know this. Even the teachers know this, that peers are your greatest advisors and influencers. Now, teens think well, but they express poorly. They sometimes run through such complex thoughts in their minds that they find it very difficult to convey them the right manner. Digital spaces change behavior drastically. Now, this is something that has come into existence since the past 20, 25 years only, that when teens enter, because teens are digital natives, maybe teens have opened their eyes to some or the other screen. So, yes, digital spaces change behavior because many teens cannot even imagine their existence without one or the other screen in their lives, right? And of course, teens navigate lot many digital spaces all at one go, be it social media, be it gadgetry, be it digital devices. So they are actually handling and navigating a lot many of them. And one hidden truth about teen behavior is that most teens are not trying to be difficult. This is for all of us adults. And teens actually understand this. They are screaming, say, up till their voices go hoarse, that we are not trying to be difficult. This is what we are. So this takes us to a poll question number 1. Akhila, may we have the poll question? Akhila, are we going to have the poll question?
The questions are up, ma'am, and it's mostly yes.
It's mostly yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So the question was, do we have specific learning styles? Now let's get into edumyths. So, dear parents and dear students, learning styles or having a particular learning style is a myth. It has been propagated, it was actually propagated past 25 to 30 years, and no concrete proof through research has been found that we have any specific learning styles. Now, when this theory of specific learning styles was put forth, that some of us are visual learners, some of us are kinesthetic learners, or some of us are auditory learners, or some of us are mix of learners, audio visual. No, all of us learn through all of these ways, and there is no specific learning style. In fact, what best is the style for that particular content is the decider. So, for example, you may watch hundreds of YouTubes on cooking. Unless you enter the kitchen and start handling the stuff yourself, you wouldn't learn cooking, right? So, does that make you a kinesthetic learner and not an audiovisual learner? No. You may be taught hundreds of pages on how to ride a bicycle, but until and unless you get on the bicycle yourself, you would never, you may mouth the right technique, you may be able to mouth the right parts of the cycle, but you would never be able to ride. So learning styles is a myth. I urge all the educators, I beg all the parents that most research shows a lack of evidence when it comes to learning style. Another myth is left brain, right brain theory, which was given up some 50 years back or 60 years back, that we have two brains and both the brains have their independent areas. One brain is more intellectually focused and into decision making and problem solving, and another brain has a more artistic bent. No research has shown this, that we have left and right brains working independently. At best, whatever we choose to do, whatever decisions we make, how we learn, how we think, is a combination of both left and right hemispheres of our brain, and it doesn't operate in isolation. No research has been there to prove that left brain is the only brain that is intellectually inclined and is involved in decision making and learning tasks that require intellect, and right brain is the brain that functions on aesthetics and artistic and creative talent. No research has conclusively shown this, so it's an educational myth, or it's an edu myth. Another edumyth is whether brain gyms and edtech work. Now, brain gym was, it was a whole software that was launched in 2008, and it claimed for improved intellectual and physical development. Uh, no conclusive research has been found for this, or for that matter, edtech with a lot of audiovisual material. If you think it enhances learning, it doesn't. No research has given an empirical evidence that more audiovisual or more gimmicky videos would help learning better. Another edumyth that is put forth in educational circles is students don't learn from people they don't like. It is a myth, but that doesn't mean teachers become especially obnoxious or dislikable to students, because it doesn't affect learning. So, yes, students can learn from people they don't like, but it has been noticed that their motivation, their participation, and their risk taking drops when the relationship feels unsafe and dismissive. Right? So, more important for students is psychological safety and perceived fairness. So, a strict teacher may necessarily not drop learning outcomes. But if the students perceive even a lenient teacher as erratic, psychologically unsafe for them, or dismissive of their efforts, learning would drop. So, a strict teacher who is dedicated to her work, or who is predictable for them, who is not erratic, or who provides psychological safety through routines, the students would be able to learn from her. So, the students' like and dislike does not influence learning outcomes as much as their need for psychological safety and their need for recognition and appreciation matters, right? So these are some edumyths that uh, I would want you to focus upon. right? And now let's move on to Edgar Dale's, or rather, let's move on to Bloom's taxonomy. Now, teachers know this. Students and parents, I really do not want to get much into detail for you because this is a very educational thing, but I really want to draw your attention to levels of thinking. So, the lower levels, remembering and understanding, is what our students actually have been doing up till now. But now that we talk about competency building and competency based education and competency based assessment, we are required to focus on higher levels or higher thinking processes, that is applying, analyzing, evaluating, and creating being the highest level of thinking. Creating whereby means making something very original that did not exist. So a small example of creative thinking would be when you are using bicycle to churn the milk or churn the cream to bring out butter. Creative thinking, right? So creative thinking is the highest level of thinking. And why I'm saying so is because when we are talking about study habits, unfortunately, as students and as parents, we limit ourselves to scoring marks. But in the present time, when we are talking about competency building, it doesn't serve to limit ourselves to only remembering and understanding our content syllabus. It doesn't help build competencies. Competency is built when we move to higher levels of thinking, which is applying, analyzing, evaluating, and creating, right? Okay. So, just as a reiteration and to remind you, we have another poll which talks about psychological safety and perceived fairness are more important for learners rather than students liking their teacher. Akhila, may I know the response?
Yes, ma'am. So everyone says yes.
Right. Thank you so much. So let's move ahead now. This is Edgar Dale's cone of learning or cone of experience. And this is something parents we need to focus upon. Reason being, we force our children to sit on study tables with textbooks and read. Now, if you will notice, reading only yields 10% retention. So, of course, this cone serves as an important guide for us elders as well as students to understand how much we retain when we study or when we learn something, some content. Notice how teaching others leads to 90% retention rates. And we are going to further move on and reach out to Feynman technique or Feynman philosophy of teaching others. So, yes, when we talk about teaching others, sometimes when students sit and study in groups, learning and understanding is better. And if we are talking about competency building only happens when we move towards the lower base of the cone. If you would see discussion groups, practice by doing, and teaching others. Now, unfortunately, when we talk about study habits, there is no room for this. When we talk about study habits amongst any of the students, be it teens, be it middle school students, be it foundational school students, what we want them to do is sit on the study desk with a textbook and read. At best, in classrooms, teachers would go ahead and show audiovisual and demonstration. But research has repeatedly proved that discussion, practice by doing, and teaching others are more effective tools to retain what one has learned. So, now what I would strongly suggest is when we talk about teen study habits, I insist that you make your child participate in a discussion group or they practice by doing things if the content lends itself to doing something and teaching others. teaching others does not necessarily mean, I mean, I'm just not saying that so-called smarter child teaches a little intellectually less child. No. See, a child who has understood the content somewhat can go about teaching others to consolidate the content. You know, dear parents, here when we talk about, when I reach the Feynman technique, and you would believe me if I tell you, it says that even if you don't get anyone to teach, teach the wall, teach the chair. But the very process of simplifying and making the other person understand enhances one's own understanding and learning. So, as it was discussed, there are no specific learning styles, and the more senses are involved, the better learning effectiveness. So, we remember by all of these: reading, discussion, and doing, the retention rate is much higher, right? Now, as you must have answered in the poll, Akila must have floated. What is the result, Akila?
Fact, ma'am. Majority said it's a fact.
Majority said it's a myth.
It's a fact.
It's a fact, yes. So, involving as many senses as possible uh, for that content enhances learning effectiveness. So, yes, with all of these things in place, we are in a good launch pad to get into some actionables. So, as I see, the attendees have a very clear understanding of learnings. Now, the big question is, let's apply that. Okay. So, let us see some actionables and how to go about them. So, there is no beating this. Study in short timed blocks. Now, let me at the onset inform parents to and not only inform parents but to remind, when did you start studying? Did you start studying on 1st or 2nd of April as your school started, or you actually sat sincerely with the books, say in December and January, for your exams in March and April? Right. So the thing is, what I am talking about here is students need to kind of revise. We are going to come there every day, just 10 minutes of what is covered in those 8 periods or 7 periods in school, and you are in a good space. Revise does not mean putting to memory. Revise means just going through to check whether your understanding is sound, and to check whether you would be able to build up upon your understanding the next day in the classroom. So when I'm talking about study in short time blocks, I'm actually talking about the day you started for your exams, preparing for your exams. So maybe 15, 20 days before your midterms, 5, 7 days before your formative assessments, and in January for your boards or exams, right? So study in short timed blocks is what is important. And all of us, or rather most of us, must have heard of Pomodoro technique, which is much talked about today because human focus doesn't last for more than 25 minutes. And there is a lesson for all of us here, that we must not ask our kids to sit for long periods on chairs and study or engage with their books, because after 25 to 30 minutes, our mind drifts and we must take a break of 5, 7 minutes. But of course, we must then go back. So, studying in short time blocks kind of creates mental clarity for the next content when you've taken a break and when you go back. So, Pomodoro technique actually talks about repeating 3 or 4 times each time block. So, 25 minutes of study, 5 minutes of break, or 7 minutes of break, then go back and repeat it 4 times, and then take a bigger break of half an hour or 40 minutes. This works. And here, the message for the parents is, if your teen rises up after 20, 25 minutes, let them have that break. as such, teens have so much of energy that making them sit longer is actually a crime. We are just kind of confining them to a chair whereas their mind has already drifted. So make them study in short spurts, then break, short spurts, and then break, and then a longer break of 30 to 40 minutes after 4 cycles of short study periods. Now, small steps go about yielding big results. Now, here, what I want to say is whenever we are sitting to prepare, I'm here focusing on preparing for exams. Whenever we sit for preparing for our exams, instead of saying study science or study math, we must actually break down our task to smaller, more actionable and coherent specifics, which is I will study page 42 and 43 and maybe underline the key points or will be able to write the key points. That's how. So, in these small chunks of 25 minutes, specify what you will be doing. That is a more effective outcome oriented approach. What we do is we blur the outcome when we say, I will study science on 7th of March. That's such a big target and such a vague target that accomplishing it is not possible. Or rather, it doesn't give you the roadmap to accomplish it. So, better technique is to specify, I will study from page 50 to 75 and make short notes on the content, or will be answering 10 questions on that content. So that's how you divide your work into smaller chunks that are more concrete and actionable. Now, this is one important exercise. Now, dear parents, I'll also tell you to focus on this. So, let us focus on the active recall rule. Now, what is active recall? Read, close the book, and recall. So, for example, you've read 2 pages. Close the book and try to write 3 important points, or try to write 2 important differences, or whatever the content demands. That's engaging your mind actively. Plainly reading the text will not put it to your memory. Active recall also means trying to answer questions on the content that we read maybe today or a couple of days back. Unless we engage in active recall, we will not be able to put the learning to long-term memory. Because if we are simply skimming or even reading through text passively and not answering questions or not challenging our memory to recall, the retention is much lower, right? So your study habit should involve active recall. Now, how you can go about doing that is whenever you are trying to master a content, before even reading the stuff, get hold of questions on that content and keep those questions with you. So once you've read, try to answer that question after closing your book. Now, you could only be writing the bullet points in your practice notebook, but do write. Plainly reading the text will not put to long-term memory, and you will not be able to recall it the next day or on your examination table. Right. So active recall only happens when you attempt questions, when you close the book and challenge yourself, not through reading and rereading the stuff. Another actionable is making a 5-line summary after every study session. So after every Pomodoro, that is after every 25 minutes, before taking a break, devote 2 to 4 minutes to making a 5-line summary, right? So The steps to writing summary are reading the content until you understand it, making your own short notes, your own short notes. Now, here, dear teens, what you actually do is you take notes from wherever you are able to lay your hands. You take notes from your friends, you take notes from your teachers. I don't understand how they are going to help you. They are their notes written from their understanding. Note making is a very individual exercise. And you make your notes, that is, you write your own short content after understanding what you have read. So, taking notes from anybody else, even your teacher, is the most useless and futile exercise. It's not going to benefit you. Even the teacher forwarded notes are reading text for you if you've not made them yourself. It's yet another reading text. So I urge you to change this reading habit and relying on notes by anybody else except yourself. And how you can make notes is right from 2nd of April. So you are taught, you come home and just skim through it, write the pointers because things are fresh in your mind, you're referring to the books, you make your short notes and store them systematically. Trust me, these are the notes that are going to help you while preparing for your exam, may it be your periodic assessment, midterm, or final exams, because they are your own personalized notes. You prepared them after understanding the content, right? So, summary, you all know how to write, read until you understand, identify the most important points, and of course, your notes. Check your summary against the original text. See, whenever you're making notes, it's not a test. Your text can be opened anytime for reference, right? And then you can revise your edit your summary for errors or something that you've left out, just add there. Use color pens to make your summary. So, dear teens, when we talk about study habits call for regularity. Every day you need to engage with text, whether you're putting it to memory or not. But engage with it, make your notes, put them to side. We'll study them when we need. Just as even the bird keeps, bringing in the grains for that winter season. So you need to keep putting in one grass every day to be cozy when your exams come. Okay, this is the Feynman technique I was talking about. That is teaching someone. Unless you teach someone, you cannot be sure. So the better thing is, if you're not able to find someone, teach the wall right in front of you. Teach the, pen stand sitting on your table. But because the technique is simplify and improve the content. So whenever you teach someone, first of all, you've got to understand it yourself. Then you try to teach somebody in the simplest of language. And when you try to teach somebody, it fills in it plugs the gaps in your own understanding. Because trust me, we cannot simplify it unless we've understood the content, right? And when you've understood the content and simplified it for yourself, your understanding is complete. So, dear teens, consciously look out for someone to teach. If you find nobody, just make your parents sit, okay, whether they are listening to you or not, just make them study, hear out what you have studied, right? So, engage them. Don't let them off the hook. Now, keep one mistake notebook. Now, this is a very, very actionable thing. A notebook filled with mistakes is better than a blank one, because mistakes means you're trying. Now, how does it work? So when you close the notebook and when you are answering questions on the content that you've practiced, you're bound to make mistakes. And once you start checking what all you made a mistake about, take a new notebook or next notebook and just write those questions that you answered wrong. The right ones are already yours. The questions you answered wrong, put them there with the right pointers. This notebook is going to help you the day before your exam, when you are preparing in a jiffy, when you don't have time to go through everything, because these were your weak areas. Now you put them all in one place and you simply need to skim through them and you are ready for the exam. So, a mistake notebook. Now, dear teens, what I would, and I'm sure your parents have been reminded you, regularity and routine cannot be beaten by anything. They are the key. So, all of these things require regular work. Just even half an hour of sitting on your study table every day, right from 1st to 2nd of April, will make your ear a breeze, make your exams a pleasant exercise for you, right? So make a mistake notebook. It's a completely actionable thing. Wherever you make a mistake, those answers you are required to write in your notebook, a next notebook, and that's all. You're putting the things that were shaky for you initially in one place. And you simply are required to handle those 2 days or one day before your exam, and you're ready to go. Now, this is a very, very interesting thing. You must fix a daily study time, not daily targets. Now, this might sound a very counterintuitive thing. Nobody must have told you, because every one of us actually fixes study targets, and we've all been told to fix study targets. But when we fix study time, then our minds get attuned to bringing in that focus at that particular time. It's like conditioning your mind to pull in all the resources. Just as if we eat at, say, 1 o'clock every day, we eat our lunch at 1 o'clock every day, our body gets accustomed to sending hunger pangs close to 1 o'clock. And we realize that it's our eating time. If we sleep in the night at 10 o'clock every day, our mind starts sending signals that it's sleep time, whether we sleep or not, whether we kind of lose a grip on ourselves and engage up till 1 o'clock on some screen. That's another point. But our body has a way of reminding us that, yes, it's your study time, it's your sleep time, it's your meal time, right? So, when you start fixing your study time, point number one, it shapes a routine. So, what I'm begging you to do, dear teens, is from 2nd of April, you are not required to devote 5 hours to your studies after school. Don't do that. Trust me, if you can bring yourself to sit for only half an hour, say 6:30 to 7 or 7 to 8, whatever, you would be in a much happier space by midterm. You will be in a happy space by final exams. So fix a daily study time, because right in the beginning, in the month of April, you wouldn't have substantial content to do in that study time, but make it a habit that I'll sit on my study desk for half an hour or for 1 hour every day from this time to this time. And you'll be covering up a lot of content, right? So, study time helps build a routine. When you fix targets, your mind has a way of procrastinating. Okay, I'll be able to do it. It's not a big target, or I have already understood this. No. But when you fix a study time, you will be by habit sitting for your work and making most of that time by habit, right? This is one interesting thing, phone rule, right? So, phones should be kept in another room when you are studying. Every ping, every flash of the screen, even if you turned off the notification sound, has a way of distracting you. So for those one block of Pomodoro, keep your phone away in another room. You spend 25 minutes completely engaged with your content, your learning, your work. Then take a break of 5 minutes, go and see. The world wouldn't end in that time. This is a mental discipline that only you can cultivate. None of us adults can tell you, right? So, phones need to be kept. And as I said in the beginning, teens engage with gadgets and technology in a very different fashion. Their minds change when they are engaging with technology, right? Teens have a way of, working with 10 tabs at one go on their laptop, and that creates a chaos in the mind. Trust me, multitasking is something no human being can do well. It's nothing to be proud of. So tell yourself, I will do one thing at a time. And for that one thing, phone needs to be kept in another room. And I think it must be music for parents, because they must be telling this till the cows come home every day, right? So, dear teen, you're fooling yourself if you're not keeping your phone in another room. Or if you're not depositing it with your parent that, mommy, I need to study for 1 hour, keep the phone away. I don't need it right now. Nothing else works, right? Okay. Now, as I said, start revision the same day. You must revise whatever is taught in the school, just skimming through it. I'm not asking you even to remember it. Just come home, make those small pointers or whatever your teacher talked in the class, and put them away in a systematic fashion, and you are ready. You are studying, you are doing your job. So, on an average, every school day has 6 academic periods, and 2 are for sports or music or library or any other thing. Even if you revise for 10 minutes per period at home, that's hardly 1 hour. If you revise 5 minutes, that's half an hour, right? So somewhere between half an hour to 1 hour, you need to study every day from 1st or 2nd of April, and you are ready. If you can bring yourself to bringing in this discipline, you've done your job. And it's not asking too much. Now, this is interesting. Use active tools, not decoration. Many of us believe in, getting those pretty notes or getting those fancy pens or stick-on notes, and we pin some things on our study tables and all. Trust me, pretty notes do not equal to learning. So instead of those colorful notes and, those gadgets and gimmickry, put practice questions of all kind in front of you. Those are more important. As I said, questions enhance learning, because then you are forced to actively engage with the content. So pin questions on your softboards in front of your workstation or study table, instead of those fancy stick-ons or fancy motivational quotes. They're good. I'm not dismissing them, but filling the blanks, questions, thoughtful, exercises, flashcards, and self-tests. They are more effective tools because you would be engaging with the content actively, right? Now, trust me, dear teens, as we adults kind of work very intentionally when we go to our workplaces and so on and so forth, that kind of intentional approach to study is required. You cannot sleepwalk, you cannot drift through your studies. And people who are intentional about their studies will use active tools, because every day they would be, or every 3-4 days, they would be preparing more questions to put on the board and remove some questions. Just as you arrange your bag every day for the school the next day, Similarly, you actively put on the things on your board or on your desk to actively mentally engage, right? And that requires intentional work. That requires taking control of what you're doing. So, the rules are, in a nutshell, read less. Now, this might sound counterintuitive. Read less, test more. They go hand in hand. So, whatever you read, if you start answering questions, making notes after closing the book, you are actively recalling, right? And repeat these often. So, for example, you've studied something today, say 2 pages today or 4 pages, some content in some subject, and you want to recall after 3-4 days, a short revision question will do much good than opening the content and rereading it the way you read it for the first time. So answer a question after 2-3 days. And if you've done this exercise thrice with any content, you just simply can forget revision also, because now it's gone to your long-term memory. But the need of the hour is you don't rote memorize, you understand, and then you teach the wall in front of you, right? So repeat that often. And I cannot hammer it enough, rest properly. Dear teenagers, your need for rest is so much. Your body is growing, you need rest, because our body builds itself and repairs itself when we sleep, when we rest. And dear teenagers, somehow that's a casualty in the present times. Y'all run about, y'all don't sleep, y'all don't rest, and your physical body and your mental health or mental body gets tired. Then no amount of actionables can help you when you study or when you sit on your study table. So rest. Your rest should be treated with the same diligence as you treat your WhatsApp messages. So if you can recall it without looking at it, you know it. As I said, you read something, close the book, answer a question. If you can recall it, you know it, and it's been put to your memory. So you can rest assured that you've learned it, you've internalized it, and you've mastered it, right? Now, this is very important, and we'll hold on to this slide because these are the real drivers, and this is for parents as well. The real drivers that push teens away from studying. Now, trust me, dear parents, fear of failure is a real thing for teenagers, because right in the beginning, we understand the teenager psychology, which is that they are building their self and others' opinions matter to them, even if they mask it as I don't care. They mask it as a very devil may care attitude. But fear of failure is real for every teen. And when they are constantly judged on their marks, on their performances, and given a negative feedback, they completely lose out. They are driven away from studying. So, parents, herein a lesson for us. I am not saying that you extend a toxic support. Yes, that's also another term that has come into practice, that toxic permissiveness and toxic support is also not good. It will kill the resilience, or it will stop our teenagers from building resilience. But do not overload them with a fear of failure through your negative talk. When a child shows failure, and by this I do not mean less marks, by this I mean the child does not use his potential. By this I mean the child does not perform in the test because of lack of understanding. If the understanding is in the right place and the non-performance happened through other reasons, That's completely acceptable. But whenever a child shows non performance according to you, rather than saying you are no good, it helps to help your teen explore the causes of failure and how we can overcome those. So, very constructive talk is called for, because otherwise, your teen would be driven away from studying because that psychological pressure of failing will plague his mind or her mind. Chronic comparison, I mean, we all know comparison has helped nobody, but we do that. And comparison kills initiative. So, a comparison has to be only with oneself. And dear parents, there is a lesson for us in this. Do not compare your kids with your other kids, with your other, I mean, with other children in the class or your neighbor's kids or whatever. When the children do not find any meaning in what they are doing, and trust me, most children do not find any meaning in what they do in school, because marks do not give meaning to what we do. Marks, we parents, we adults have put forth this idea that marks aayenge, so you will enter IIT, you will enter NEET, and you will make a life for yourself. Our teens don't find meaning in this, in the AI world where things are changing so quickly. They've realized marks don't matter as much as we've put them. That time is gone. That was from 1990s till say 2010. That time is gone. Teenagers derive meaning when they are appreciated for their knowledge, not marks. Trust me, dear parents, I have seen so many teens scoring marks because they can put things to memory and they have got some good study habits. And real intelligent ones not scoring marks. That doesn't take away from them that they are intelligent here and eventually they'll prove their mettle. But as long as you don't appreciate the team for his or her thinking process, cognitive capabilities, the team will find no meaning in what is being done. And this is what is happening in schools, in homes. We are just saying, Padlo, you will get marks. The team is internally saying, it doesn't matter. So a sense of meaning in what they are doing is more important for them. Now, my question is, how does the sense of meaning come? And all the three stakeholders have to reevaluate: the school and teachers, the parents, as well as teens. They've got to reevaluate why we study, why we educate ourselves or our kids. And what is it that we need to incorporate into our learnings that will bring meaning into what we are doing? And one important, meaningful thing, an argument for education, for learning from the textbooks, and what we do at school is we will know stuff that might come handy in life. We don't know what we are studying right now would be required when, but trust me, the system is built, dear teens, with a very thought out curriculum. You would need the things you are taught in schools sometime or the other in life. And it will not be direct use. Things have a way of connecting themselves and building a coherent whole in our minds. We've divided the content or knowledge into these silos: science, social science, math, Hindi, English, or whatever. Knowledge is not divided into these brackets. It's a whole mass. And you keep learning things, you keep knowing things, building up on your curiosity, and your mind will have things in their own slots, which you can recall later. So that's one big reason I can give you that there is meaning in what is being done in the schools. But trust me, there's no meaning in only saying that you must study for marks. That's the quickest way to rob meaning out and drive the teen away from study. Every teen doesn't want to be a topper, right? Now, too much cognitive load is also something that drives teens away. Now, you see, many teenagers are engaged in schoolwork, then coaching classes, additional work. Along with it, there is a digital distraction and emotional turbulence. They are passing through a lot. All of this increases the cognitive load. Add to it parents nagging, pad lo, study. Their mind is overloaded, and trust me, tired brain resists effort. So, to parents, I will say ensure that you do not nag your kids. To teens, I would say rest your mind consciously. But resting your mind does not mean engaging with technology once again. Resting your mind means going to sleep, playing something physically. That is your non tech time and non study time. Rest your mind, talking to parents or whosoever you like to talk to. Teens don't like talking to their parents more often than not. It's that phase, right? So, cognitive load has to be consciously eased when you are not stimulating your mind with digital things or with emotional overload or coaching or anything. Try to relax and relax at least for half an hour to 1 hour completely when you are not thinking about any of these things. And to my mind, physical exercises, that is going to the park, cycling, playing with friends, whatever, engaging in fitness routine, they are the best, exercises to reduce cognitive load. Now, what do we mean by low academic self concept? And here, dear parents and teachers, we have to ensure that we don't kind of drive the student towards having a low academic self concept. Now, what do we mean by this is many students internalize that I'm no good, I'll not be able to score marks, I'll not be able to master this content, I am bad at studies. Now, how do teens form this self concept? They form this self concept through our feedback. When we use these kind of remarks, no, you would not be able to master it. No matter how much you try, you wouldn't be able to do it. Be careful not to make these. I'm also not asking you to go ahead on the other end of the spectrum with sugary things like you can do it without telling them the actionables how to do it, right? So be very action smart, that is specific, measurable, actionable, relevant, and time bound. Whenever you're giving a feedback, it should be a smart feedback. S for specific, M for measurable, A for actionable, R for relevant. One advice might be good for one student, it might not be for another one. And time bound. When you give this kind of feedback, students do not form a low academic self concept. They do not form this mental model I am no good, I am bad at studies, I cannot do. We've got to be very careful about this because once a student internalizes it, every new task is filtered through this identity. Now, if your child has already formed this self concept, what you are required to do is systematically work to eliminating it. Once again, don't mouth those platitudes. No, it doesn't matter. You can do it. You are good. No, give your team the specifics, how to go about it. Instead of you are going to score good marks, tell your team last time you scored 62%. Make an effort to score 68% this time. Very, very specific, right? And this will help your ward or your student slowly and gradually form a better academic self concept, right? Because somehow we really want to cut all fingers to the same size. Every child need not score 90%, 99%. I mean, a child who is spending 10 hours on the sports field, why should he score any better than 65 to 70%? But somehow the advice we give is the same one we would give a 90%er. The problem is not with the advice. The problem is with the fit. It's a wrong fit for a child who wants to make a career in sports, or a child who wants to make a career in music, or a child who wants to make a career in, say, journalism or any other field. So just don't measure every cloth by the same yardstick, because it will then fall on deaf ears. The child might not respond back, but the child knows his mind, her mind, right? Classroom emotional risk is real, dear teachers. Ask any teen. And as I had said, if the teen doesn't feel psychologically safe, she would be spending a lot of mental energy to overcome this fear. If the teen is ridiculed, pulled down, it's too much of an emotional risk to engage in academics. If the teen is threatened at home by parents, if you don't score 90 marks, your pocket money would be stopped, or we will not do this for you. It's a threat with which the teen mind will struggle, and that fear and that monkey would sit on her shoulder. So emotional risk anywhere lowers performance, lowers mental effort, and lowers motivation. There are only three things that add on to motivation. If you would have read this book, I mean, I would suggest to all teens and parents and even educators to read this nice book called Drive by Daniel Pink, wherein he talks about motivation, and he says there are only three factors to motivation: autonomy, purpose, and expertise. Teens are working to gain expertise, but autonomy and purpose are for us to give them when we start deciding their study routines, when we start deciding their marks, when we start deciding their goals. Where are we giving them autonomy, or where are we giving them purpose? And then we say they don't study. So, dear teens, if you're attending, as I said, you need to sit and have a talk with your parents. But for that, a lot of self-discipline is required in you as well. If you want to have that autonomy and purpose, you got to prove yourself matured enough to handle your studies yourself, right? So, lack of autonomy happens only when you don't put up with your part of the bargain, right? So, emotional risk is something educators and parents should lift. And autonomy, dear teens, you'll be able to gain when you prove yourself to be worthy. And I would say both the parties need to take one step towards. Parents need to loosen that leash that they put on their teens by constantly nagging or deciding their curricular routines and deciding their tuitions and binding their times and kind of over scheduling their time. On the other hand, teens need to prove their worth, right? When everything is timed and evaluated, teens, so once again, I would hammer this lack of autonomy. You know, when we structure everything for the teens, they look at learning as something done to them rather than something done by them. So learning becomes like somebody else doing it to them rather than learning that they have to do themselves by themselves, right? And dear parents, the sooner we understand this, the better position we are in. The onus should be given, the autonomy should be given to your child to decide. The only thing is, how long can we just settle ourselves even when things are going wrong, keeping the faith that they will get recalibrated? Because a period of turmoil does happen when things are getting recalibrated. So hold on to yourself till then, when you are transferring the autonomy of their studies to themselves. And you will see that your teen is a self starter or working on himself or herself, right? When the teens resist that control, it's the teens wanting to take back their autonomy. When the teens start retaliating, resisting that control that you exercise on them, they're wanting their autonomy back. And we fail to understand that, right? So teens move away from studying not because they lack motivation, but because studying has become emotionally expensive for them on all counts. In the classrooms, it's threatening. In the school, in the homes, parents put a lot of cognitive load and emotional load on them. So trust me, studying has become an emotionally expensive exercise for the teens, and we adults need to lessen that emotional load. And the teens need to prove themselves resilient enough to get into systematic, matured work. So, on this note, I request adults not to act out their fears. I request teens to take the reins of their studies in their own hands through practicing the actionables that I could tell you. There are many more to practice if it suits you. But these were some of the actionables that I could talk about your study habits. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am. I think I can speak for everyone when I say that was both an eye opening and genuinely reassuring. We had a lot of people commenting about, like, how Pomodoro is their favorite technique and how they always ask their students to follow it. As well as we had a quite good of chatter when you talked about, teaching someone method. So yeah, thank you so much for a wonderful session. A very big thank you to Ms. Shivani Gupta for this evening. Please, audience, please do share your appreciation in the chat. She has given us so much to think about and take back home tonight. Thank you so much again, ma'am. If you haven't already, do explore parents.center.org, our online tutoring platform designed to give your child access to accredited quality learning support from the comfort of home. We also have a growing parent community right there on the platform, a space where we warmly invite you to come, share what you're feeling, what you're doing, and connect with parents who are on the same journey. And to look forward to something, our next Send Talks for Parents session is on Thursday, 20th March, which will be on the topic Raising Confident and Future Ready Children. Follow Santa and stay tuned for more our session. Thanks again to every parent here tonight. Thank you for showing up, for asking questions, and for caring this deeply about your child's learning. That in itself makes all the difference. On behalf of Senda and Ms. Shivani Gupta, have a beautiful evening. Thank you so much.